Hello, hello. Welcome once again to another edition of Quoth the Raven, Lewis Bright Raven. I'm your host, Lewis Bright Raven. And whether other people believe it or not, I've been around for this industry for over 33 years as a writer, illustrator, editor, and talent scout, among other things. And joining me tonight is my regular co host, Chris Hall, and hopefully soon be joining us is our other co-host, John Norris, who's having a little bit of technical difficulty at the moment. His laptop basically kind of died out on him right before the show. We don't know what happened.
Yeah, and don't forget Coffee Boy and Professional Jester too. You in the comic book industry, those were, have also been your roles. So
yeah, okay. We're kind of waiting on John to come because in the room because our first topic of discussion is dealing with trolls. A lot of people got mad apparently about my little rant last week, and okay, that's fine. I'm not saying people don't have a right to get upset, but some of the remarks that were made leading into my rant to begin with were justified. And here John is.
Hello.
hello, good sir. Good to see you, man.
And of
Good
course,
to be
we're also
back.
joined, and we're also joined by the Midnight Monster.
Midnight Monster.
All right, baby. Okay. Now, first thing we're going to deal with is this individual who sent a rather ridiculous email to me addressing all of us. But I ranted about it last week a little bit, but I didn't put the actual letter up because I thought it was being inappropriate in a way. But I guess apparently we need this guy. He needs his 15 seconds of fame.
I think John's frozen.
Yeah, he could be. Darn. That could be a problem. But let's see what's going on here. But we'll go ahead and get that this commentary on here. John's left. Hopefully he'll be back in a second. But we really should get that in here and get started the show. I've watched about 30 episodes, and it's always the same books, same sort of books with you guys. You, Raven, are always picking weird shit that nobody else ever reads. Chris is always picking up slasher horror comics. And then there's that John Norris guy who's like 40 years old and buys Disney comics and has Disney stuff all over his room like he's an 8-year-old or something. Does he ever actually buy anything that isn't either a Disney comic or a comic book based on old cartoons or toys from the 60s to the 1980s?
Stay tuned to tonight's episode.
He continues. You guys never review any real comics. Where's the reviews of the X-Men or Batman or the Mark Miller titles or the Ghost Machine books? Stuff that people actually like and read. That's why nobody watches your channel, because you don't pick any good titles. Let me guess, you think you don't need to because that's what everybody else already does. Well, that's why nobody watches your channel. Well, that's why people watch their channels and not yours, dumbass. Joe MP, asshole at large. So I'm going to let you two say your piece first.
You want to go first, Chris, or do you want me to?
I can, yeah. So how do I put this? I need a minute to gather my thoughts. Go ahead, John.
Okay, well, first of all, he actually paid me a compliment, whether he knows that he did or not, because to me, saying that I'm 40 years old is a huge compliment because I'm actually 50. So thank you very much.
All right. Well, that's good. What else? Oh, you froze.
He froze again. Well, okay. So, yes, I read slasher horror stuff because that's what I like. And you know what? This is our channel. That's what I like. This is what I'm able to do on this channel. So, get over yourself. I do enjoy other titles, but this show makes it a point to not do what everybody else does.
Right.
Lewis has worked very, very hard to, and Lewis works harder behind the scenes than anybody knows. He works very hard to, not necessarily for John, but at least for me, to pick out titles that he thinks I might find interesting. And I have a very limited time because I am a full-time comic artist. I tons and tons of work. So yeah, you know, that's what I like. That's what I read. So if you don't like it,
Go ahead, John. You were going to continue from the compliment, I believe. Or
he froze again.
He froze again. Ah, man. All right. Well, we'll hopefully he'll come back here. But oh, you're back.
I'm gonna switch to my phone.
Okay. Good idea.
Yeah. Sorry if your computer's not down again. It was working fine for 2 weeks, and then the minute he has to actually come back on the show, it's
right.
Being kind of crappy again. But okay, let's go ahead and let me say what I gotta say here. Oh, you watched the whole 30 episodes out of the more than 660 videos I've produced on this channel, so you've seen it all already, have you? I and John and others have reviewed Jeff Johns' Junkyard Joe, Geiger, and Redcoat on this channel in the past. They did not score well. I have reviewed Mark Miller's Prodigy, Reborn, Starlight, and The Magic Order. Only Starlight received high marks. The rest received either mid to below average scores. I have reviewed multiple X-Men arcs, and Chris and I just reviewed Wolverine and Kitty Pryde #1, our May 1st, 2025 episode, and scored it so poorly that I pretty much explained that this is why we don't do Marvel reviews hardly ever.
Right.
And that was a Chris Claremont book. If I'm shredding Chris Claremont, what the hell do you think I'm going to say about the so-called writers they have working on the X-Titles these days? Let's be honest.
Yeah,
and I don't want to be like these other jackasses on YouTube or other social media that attack fellow creators, or because whether I like their work or not, somebody appreciates them enough to give them employment, and they're trying to entertain.
Yes.
Whether they succeed or not, they're trying. So I'm not gonna, it's not in anyone's best interest for me to just tear someone down for the sake of tearing someone down. No matter how many people hit the like button for it. That's just how I operate and how I think. And by the way, the episodes that we did review those type of books on, they didn't score any higher number of viewership than any of our other episodes. So nobody cares whether we're reviewing those books or not. Now, are we going to talk about some of our favorite classic and Marvel DC story arcs and the like when we get into launching season 6? Yes. And maybe you'll find something you'll like. Who knows? But frankly, I'd rather you just didn't bother, Joe. If you're going to be this way. Because if you can't put something on my channel in 660 videos worth your time, the problem's you. I'm sorry.
Yes. Not to mention that Raven and I have been reading comics for like 45 years or more. How long have you been reading comics for, Joe? we've done the X and the yeah, we've done the X books, we've done the DC Batman and the all that stuff. So that's why we do other things. You there, Lewis?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
John was asking for the link again. I'm like, why do you need the link?
Oh.
It's up in it's up. You know, but if that doesn't work, I'll give again. But anyway, sorry. Joe Jackass responded again with another email. I looked over it and I used ChatGPT and I couldn't find you. And ChatGPT says it cannot find you any other critical sources. I say you're a fraud. Oh, really? Now I'm a fraud, Chris.
Well, you know what I said about that.
Now, not that anyone with a brain the size of a fucking neutrino would ever use ChatGPT as a resource to try to validate a person's existence, but okay, I went over there too to see what the hell this bozo was talking about. And indeed, it claims it can't find anything. But it also claims that they went through the major industry talent launcher sites, most notably Comic Vine, and that I wasn't listed. Let's take a look at Comic Vine, shall we? Let's do that. There I am. Now, it doesn't have a whole lot on my listings. I only got 8 of my more than 1,600 credits because a lot of other people aren't listing this stuff. And if I list it, it's not always counted as credible information because it's not always supported by other people, supposedly. But we've got my work for Arrow Comics, Spank the Monkey and the Comic Market, 3 appearances, Wonderland 1 appearance, Zim's Heroic Tales 1 appearance, Scar Tissue, which is from Ronin Studios, Comic Effect Magazine, where I had 1 appearance that wasn't in that particular issue being shown, and then we've got my own self-published LUMEN article, White Raven. Now, my cat needs to behave. Sorry about that. Now, some people might think that these books don't exist. Whoops, sorry about that. Oh, okay. Weird. He needs to have that thing sent again. So let me see if it'll send it. It won't send it. I gotta. Stupid. All right. Let me copy it again. Give it to him again.
And actually, so Joe, I went on ChatGPT and it can't find any existence of you either. So you're a fraud. You must be a fraud, right?
Right. Yeah, but I mean, like I say, here's the site, Spank the Monkey. Okay. Well, there you go. Here's the actual book right here. It exists. You need to open. You need to see that it's not just a slit in that thing. Okay, yeah, there's the back cover. There you go. There's actual pages. That all checks. Here's a whole history of it. Won't, I don't know if it's actually do this, but it has a lot of the information on the history of comics and distribution and stuff like that in those boxes. So that's what this is about. It's an actual comic about the history of the comic book business and what was going on with Diamond back in '99. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, there you go.
I'm sorry, who wrote the distribution model that they used back in the day?
Oh, you mean this?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yes. Oh, it
that
says B. Lewis, not Lewis Bright Raven. Yeah, Lewis is my middle name. Rick is my real last name. Bright Raven is my artistic pseudonym. Big fucking deal. Everybody knows this, has known it for decades. What's the deal? Because I don't have a digital footprint, who cares? You know?
and which companies use that model?
Yeah. Oh, Viz, Scholastic, Del Rey, Tor, Simon and Schuster for a brief time, quite a few others over the years. But there's a few more there, and of course, here's the Wingman book. Now, I love this. I love this on the page here. If we go to that page and it says Wingman, we'll go to Wingman, and it says, last edited by FESAC, whoever FESAC is. I don't even know who his FESAC is. Yeah. And I don't know. I don't see user reviews anywhere. There's been a Wear in Wasteland, but it's like unknown publisher, released by unknown publisher. Oh, sorry. Gee. Does that look like an unknown publisher there? It says Scott Social Studios right there. What do I need to do? Do I need to send like my business licenses to Comic Vine to confirm or something? I don't get this, but it is what it is. They're there. Now that takes care of Comic Vine. I'm in there, and I'm also in Wikipedia too, if you know how to look and where to look, but that's beside the point. So we are definitely in Comic Vine.
I have an NBD credit, an IMDb credit, so
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But you know.
Yeah. No, I don't. You're right. I don't have an IMDb credit.
No, I'm talking to Joe.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's share another screen here. If I can get there. There we go. We're going to look at some of my other sites online where I've worked as a pop-in cultural media reporter. Let's take a look at the archives of Strange Horizons Science Fiction Magazine, for example. Oh, look, here I am, listed as a contributor. Let's look and see if it's true or not. Or am I just talking out my ass? Let's share the screen, class. Do you see it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's check on my name. It's going to spin around. Bio to come. Interview, James Allen Gardner's. Articles, issue 7, January 2002. Now, for those who don't know who James Allen Gardner is, he's a science fiction author from Canada, multiple award winner. And in that article, we talk about him potentially working for Marvel and DC as well, because he was interested in working for them at the time. And I went out of my way to try and put editors in touch with his agent at the time, in fact. So there you go. But there it is, Strange Horizons, 2002, January 7th. Go ahead and go look it up and read the interview. You might educate yourself a little bit. What else we got here? That's 2 outside sources, right?
Right. So I have a question, though.
Sure.
Okay. So what do you say to Joe or people like Joe, and they're like, well, you don't have any Marvel or DC or Image Comics credits, so that means you weren't in comics.
Well, I pull out my pay stubs from Marvel. If I have them, you know, and no, I didn't go dig them out of my damn archives to scan them and show you. But from 1993 to 96, yes, I actually did work for Marvel. I just wasn't officially credited in the books because of editorial mischief, let's call it that way. Certain
Well,
people
you were a ghost artist too, right?
Mm-hmm. I was ghosting for other people. I was assisting other artists. But the thing is, there was no reason for them not to just list me as a co-anchor.
Right.
You know, they were just not doing it. And John is back. Maybe. Are you back?
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. So we'll get back to John's point of view in just a little bit. But you know, we've gone through Comic Vine. We've gone through Strange Horizons. Let's go to Steve Jackson Games. You guys know who Steve Jackson Games is. Major gaming company, right? It's been around for decades. Did you know that they did a web news, comics news site called Comic Book Life?
I did not. Well, I've heard of
Comic Book
Life.
Well, if you go to the Wayback Machine, there's Comic Book Life Home and the interview archive. And there it is, Gene Ha, November 1999. There you go. Gives you my history of how I met Gene originally at Motor City Comics Con in October 93. My history at Central Michigan University, all the things that was going on there. And it's our, you know, it's just him and I having a conversation more or less of that period. We talk about top 10 other books of his, some of his work, you know, what type of tools he likes to use. But I want to go to the bottom again here. The preceding interview is copyright 99, B. Lewis Rinke, a.k.a. Lewis by Raven, electronic rights given to Comic Life for publication on their site. It's all there, you know. So what do you guys want, you know? So that's 3 separate sources. Now, wouldn't you say that publishing companies like Strange Horizons and Steve Jackson Games are credible sources, gentlemen?
No, not at all.
No? Okay.
Of course they are. Of course they are.
And then there's another site that I did some work for that John also worked for. John will remember this place from the Wayback Machine.
Yes, I wrote reviews for that site. Scott Tingley was the owner of it. Mm-hmm. Yes, I remember that very well.
Maybe Tingley gave it to Rick Olney later on. Do you know about that or not? Because it says,
I don't know. I don't know what happened to it.
Okay, well, it says it's owned by Rick Olney now, so I don't know. But I almost thought the Lions, Tigers, and Bears on my was your article. Because you were such a huge fan of that book at the time, but I wasn't sure.
I did write a review of that book, and actually, it was actually Mike Bullock who introduced me to Scott Tingley. So,
yeah, okay. And happy birthday to Mike Bullock, by the way.
I didn't know it was his birthday. Happy birthday, Mike.
But anyway, so, or at least that's what it said on my Facebook page today. So anyway, yeah, we can't find this whole site isn't here on the archives, but I wrote reviews. Well, I didn't write reviews for them. They asked for rights to reprint some of my reviews from my regular column, Quoth the Raven, that I did back on my own channel back in the day. But this was like around 2003 or 4, I think, right before I had the fallout with Comic Book Resources. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's 4. I don't know for sure what more people really need to see, but I don't know.
So you used to that website was owned by Scott Tingley?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Did you ever happen to work for a Charles Tickley?
No.
And then, of course, we have to go to the web archives again once more. Now, this is like an old archive. It doesn't have any of the graphics. From my Quoth the Raven column that I did on regular, this is from 2000. It's my response to the top 10 comics of 2000 as prescribed by Arthur Andrew D. Arnold that was published in Time Magazine. And it has the link to that list. And his list is fine. I'm not... he shows a great deal of quality just choices in his selections. I just didn't feel like they were representational of the medium as a whole. And so I had said as much in chat rooms and message boards, and I got my ass chewed out for it. So I said, okay. Chris Eckelman or Ekman, so okay, come up with a better list. Well, I'm not going to say my list is better. But, we went with his list, which was True Swamp, which was a good book. Luba by Gilbert Hernandez, Naughty Bits by Roberta Gregory, Louis Riel by Chester Brown, Berlin City of Stones, the ABC Comics line as a whole, David Bourne by Daniel Clowes, Julius Nipple, Real Estate Photographer, The Beauty Supply District by Ben Catchor, and Jimmy Corrigan, Smartest Kid North by Chris Ware, and Safe Area Gorazde by Joe Sacco. Now remember, this is from 2000, so we're talking 25 years ago. A lot of people don't.
Right. And for you, Joe, that was probably about 10 years before you were born.
Yeah. My top 10 was top 10 specifically from Alan Moore and Gene Ha. True Swamp, Underwoods, and Overtime. Electric Girl by Mike Brennan, Mighty Gremlin. Astounding Space Heroes by Steve Conley and Marty Bauman from Image Comics. Eagle, The Making of an Asian American President by Kaiji Kawaguchi and Viz Comics. The Marquis Dance Macabre by Guy Davis and Oni Press. Age of Bronze by Eric Schanauer of Image Comics. Channel Zero remix by Brian Whitted. AIT Planet Lair, that's Larry Young's former publishing company. And of course, number 1 was Jimmy Corrigan, Smartest Kid on Earth by Chris Ware and Pantheon Books. And I give a whole list of rationale, which I'm not going to go into. It's not that important. But the point is, I was talking about web comics and how that was effective. I brought in manga. I brought in all the things that you see me do on the show now, 25 years ago. I have not changed my ideology and how I think and what should be represented in comics as a whole. So I don't know what people really want to say, So that's plenty, I think.
I would say so.
To show that, yes, I've existed for quite a long time in different channels. And, like you say, I'm sorry that, I wasn't in the book that you wanted to read or whatever. And I'm sorry that Comic Vine doesn't let me post every single book that's out there that I've worked on. But we'll see what we can do to get other people to post some more stuff on Comic Vine for you. Okay, down the road, you can look up some more cool comics. All right. So that, John, you never got to say what you wanted to say. So you got
okay. So you know, I'm 50 years old, and I have been a Disney and animation fan like literally my whole life. I mean, you can see I got my Secret of Nim poster up here. I've got a Balto poster in addition to all the stuff you normally see every week. So again, I've been an animation fan my whole life. It's just always, you know, that and music have just always been my main interest. You know, it's like, you know, I didn't even get into comics until very late, as we've talked about on the show before. Um, it's just, that's just always been my interest, and you know, it's not looking likely to change anytime soon. You know, that's what I like, and you know, I feel no need to apologize for it.
right. In fact, you know, a lot of people before you became a regular co-host, John, used to bitch at me that I didn't cover enough of what you covered.
And, you know, we were talking about comics in the classroom. You know, the reason Mike Bullock asked me to about comics in the classroom is because the owner, who was a teacher himself, Scott, you know, was looking for somebody to review these kinds of all ages books.
Exactly. And
I mean, I did do a couple of more Marvel DC books, like, you know, like I did like Ultimate Spider-Man and stuff like that. But basically, like you, back then, I did the same thing that I'm doing now.
a lot of it, yeah.
Yeah.
But,
so,
I mean, you were more independent because we were doing stuff like Telos, and we were doing stuff like Lion, Tigers, and Bears.
Yeah.
There wasn't as many licenses.
That's true.
But the point was, and this was a complaint back then, that there wasn't licensed comics for the cartoons that people wanted. Now that there is, we've been reviewing them. And, you know, I mean, whether John likes them or not, I've been very, I don't know, what do you want to say? I'm overcritical or not? I've spoken my mind about, I don't think they're fit for the children. I think they've been adulterized.
Right.
So, you know, if we're meant to talk about doing, I mean, I'm not saying doing them for adults, for that adult audience that liked them back when and want them now, is wrong inherently, but the point was these characters were for kids. So we should probably be making comic books with these characters for kids.
Right.
That's just, you know, but
in John, so your interests are animation and music. So why don't you broaden your horizons and read some comic books on quantum paleontology, or the screaming green cicada man? How come you never read comics about that?
You know, and I mean,
have I not broadened both of your palettes in comics?
Yes, you have.
Yeah, I mean, you know, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thing. That's what this site's for, is to try and broaden people's palettes. The ones that say there's nothing to read, I say bullshit. There is. Just try and find something. So there you go. That's what we do.
And you know, I think, you know, between the three of us, we balance each other out.
Well, that's kind of the reason why I had you guys come on, because people were saying I wasn't balanced enough, even though I mean, it wasn't like I didn't do kids comics. I did kids comics when I was doing this by myself. You can look back in the first season. I have entire episodes where I do 10, 15, nothing but kids comics. You know, nothing but comic books by Black creators, nothing but comic books by women creators from different era and present time, because, you know, there's always this, you know, there was no representation. Well, there always has been representation. There's just that people were ignoring it. And now I think that the market in the last 5 to 7 years They keep just thrusting everything. You know, we're going to put the women all in your face. We're going to put the gays all up in your face. We're going to put the books, and people resent it. You know, and it's a shame because it's not like the books are necessarily bad, but if you're resenting the person for just being there, you know what kind of reaction you're going to get. So anyway, that's our
yes. And on a closing note, I just want to let you all know that now that you've got me started, and that I have shenaned, I will shenan again.
Okay.
Thanks for the warning.
And again. And again. All right. So, you know, there it is. And, you know, so that's fine. I think we're, you know, pretty much done. I don't think Joe should have any more questions. The rest of the class can ask me about more, but like I said, when we do the season 6, I'm going to try and get a more broader range because I've never really I don't like look at everything I've done, look how great I am. I don't like doing that. You know, if you don't know who I am, it's because you don't want to. That's what I feel about it, you know. But you know, who am I, right? You know. Anyway, let's go ahead and get on to the show.
If you don't know who I am, I don't care.
Yeah. There we go. There we go. Let's go ahead and start doing our reviews for the night, though. Let's start with back issue number 162, 1095 from TwoMorrows Publishing, by various writers and artists for ages 13 and up. Interview, Historical Review Magazine, released September 17th, 2025. What it's about and what did I think? As always, back issue represents a theme. This issue is It's Mad. Articles about Mad Magazine and their parodies of movies and TV shows, an exploration of the history of the Mike Allred character Madman, looking back at the Mad Dog comic series produced by Marvel in conjunction with the Bob Newhart Bob TV series, where Bob Newhart played the role of a comic book creator. I don't know if you guys remember that TV series.
Well, he had so many where he did different things.
Yeah, well, it was a very short-lived series from like 91 to 93-ish, I think.
I think there was like, what, 5 Bob Newhart series?
Something like that.
Anyway, an article about the Mad Balls toys. I don't know if you remember the Mad Balls toys.
I do.
So there's more. And as usual, it's a very well curated issue. I may not have had as much interest in this issue's particular theme or topic, but the articles themselves are thorough and entertaining and educational enough to be worth my time and dollars. The most entertaining article for me was, in fact, the one about the Mad Dog comic from Marvel because of how they did it as a flip book. They had the so-called classic that was supposed to be Bob Newhart's version, and then they had the modern, like, imagized version.
Right.
And I liked it because Evan Dorkin, who I'm a big fan of, wrote the modern version while Ty Templeton did the classic Bob McKay version. Both exceptional talents. Right now, the artist escapes because Evan didn't draw it; he just wrote it. But good artists who did it. But they also had a nice article on Harley Quinn. But I've seen so much discussion on her that it really wasn't anything I hadn't seen of before. The Mad Balls article was interesting as far as the story of the toy and stuff like that. Overall, another fine issue, 4 out of 5 stars. Our next book is Blink and You'll Miss It, number 1 and 2, for $4.99 each from Boom Studios. Writers are Ethan S. Parker and Griffin Sheridan. Artist is Keith Browning. Color by Brad Simpson. Lettering by Pat Brousseau and Rico Renzi did the logo. Editors are Sebastian Grenier, John Mojian, and Maya Bollinger. Genre is horror. The first issue was released on August 6th, and the second issue was just released yesterday, September 17th, 2025. What it's about. Melody Nelson and Jesse Harmon fell in love long ago in the tiny town of Perennial Harbor. Since they parted ways, that place has grown stranger and stranger. Everything is just as it was decades ago when the strange smiles of its residents masked a bizarre secret. When Melody's life begins to unravel and she finds herself slipping backward in time, she must uncover the truth behind this mystery before it destroys her and the only one she's ever cared for. What it's about continued. Jessie can't sleep knowing that her best friend is still trapped in town, but racing back to save her will prove futile. The very fabric of realities begin to unravel around Melody, sending her further backwards in time with each passing day. Will this journey through the past hold the secret to her terrible curse, or merely serve as a eulogy before she disappears from existence entirely? What did I think? Well, it's a weird horror comic. Melody and Jessie are both female best friends / lovers, and they parted way when they left the hometown they grew in. Hometown that is clearly one of those cultish anti-LGBTQ Stepford Wives kind of weird, Twilight Zone town, where Melody is now losing herself by going back in time and being manipulated into being what was expected of women back in the day. You're supposed to be married to the guy that we tell you to marry. Yeah. And stuff like that. And of course, Jessie happens to be a black woman and Melody's a white woman, so now you've got the interracial issues that some people are going to not like, and so on, blah, blah, blah. And the writers are running this like it's a mix of time dilation and the trendier modern horror films like Jordan Peele's Get Out. I'm sort of getting where they're going with it, but the plot isn't that well crafted. Now, to be fair, trying to write a plot where there's constant time shifts and the lead character is losing themselves and their self-identity in the process is a tough concept to write to begin with. But hey, they're the ones who came up with it, so you got to build a better infrastructure so that even if your character is in a state of confusion, the audience needs to know well enough to follow along where you're going with it. I don't know how many more issues this is going to last. It's what I've seen from solicitations. The third issue seems to be what will be the concluding issue. So I'm going to stick with it and see where it's going to end. But I don't see how it's going to end with one more issue. I think it's going to be more. But I've seen other people doing reviews and claiming that they dropped it with this issue. And I can't say that I blame them, but I kind of want to see where it's going. As for the art, it's okay. It's rather sloppy in the inks, and it's not my personal cup of tea, but it's not bad. The whole thing's just sort of middle of the road meh. So I'll give it a 3 out of 5. Middle of the road score, and we'll see where it goes for the next issue. Let's skip CRYPTOLOGY for a moment, and we'll come back to that one. And go to one of Chris's choices.
All right. This is The Slasher's Apprentice, number 5, $4.99 from Mad Cave Studios. Writer Justin Richards, artist Val Halverson, color Rebecca Nolte, lettering by Buddy Bedouin, editor James B. Emmett, genre horror. Released September 17th, 2025. What it's about. With / killers sights now aimed directly at Hopton Valley Killer, Riley must attempt to save her mentor's life and legacy from being slashed out. As the duo attempt to lay a trap of their own, they will be confronted with the pains of the past as one final showdown determines the future fate of slashings as we know it. Raven gave up on this series a long time ago, partly because this genre just really isn't his thing, and he wasn't a fan of the art. Well, the exciting or the unexpected? No. Raven saw this one coming like 3 issues ago, and that's probably why he quit reading. Conclusion of The Slasher's Apprentice. And the / killer is the exact person you thought it would be, who Raven told us back in number 2 would inevitably be before the / killer even appeared in the story. Still, an interesting read as Riley and HVK prepare to take the initiative and set a trap for the / killer. This plan has balls, but can HVK stick with the plan and defeat his greatest rival? Find out in this expected conclusion, where I'm pretty sure the writer just gave up and went out for a bloomin' onion at the local Outback.
If I remember correctly, I did state that this was the inevitable direction of the story back in issue number 2. It was predictable as get out. And when I can tell you 3 issues ahead of where you are, where your story's going to be, it really doesn't matter how you got to your destination. It's a boring trip on the way to the levee when the levee is dry. So get out of your Chevy and go somewhere else.
All right.
The book did have potential, but ultimately it was just too obvious for me, and the art wasn't being my favorite thing, as you pointed out. Made it easy for me to walk away. But when I heard grumblings about this issue being a real washout, I said, "Oh, I better go find a copy and at least flip through it and figure out if it was make sure it was for the reasons I thought it would be," and it was. You give it a 3 out of 5, and I think it's because you're also grading the thing as a whole.
I gave it a 3 out of 5 because it was still entertaining, even though the big reveal was like, but there was a lot of funny stuff in there, and it was still entertaining. So
okay, I give it a 1.5 because, well, I was bored out of my mind to begin with it. It was like, I don't want to read a comic where I know everything's going to happen before it happens. I want something there, you know.
And
or if you're going to do what I know you're going to do, at least do it in some way execution that's interesting to me, and he just didn't. So
yeah, I mean, I thought it could go one of two ways, and it went the other way. So
okay, yeah,
there's one of two ways it could have gone.
Yeah, well, I think I see what you're saying. One of 2 ways it could have gone that way he wrote it. But there you go. But anyway, let's go to one of John's next, if you don't mind.
That's mine.
Yes, yeah. Let's go ahead and skip yours and go to one of John's next.
Okay, good.
That's what I was saying. I just got to get to one of John's. Here you go. To prove to Joe that you actually do read adult material, if it'll share the darn screen now.
Okay, Venom, Black, White, and Blood, issue 1. Publisher Marvel, writers David Michelinie, Ryan North, and J.M. DeMatteis. Artist Jonas Scharf, Chris Lee, and Dave Wachter on pencils and inks, with Andres Mosa on colors, or color, I should say. Lettering is VC's Clayton Cowles. Cover artists are Greg Capullo and I'm not sure how you pronounce FCO Placencia, which is what you're seeing right here. Variant covers by Mark Bagley and Andres Mosa, Doali Sanford Green, and Peach Momoko. Editor Mark Basso. Genre superhero horror. Release date August 20th, 2025. Rating, drum roll please, parental advisory.
Oh, excellent, Scoob. Marvel's not making comic kids anymore.
Did anybody else hear Peach Momoko and want a tropical fruity drink?
Yes.
Not me. Like I said, ruh Shrey, Zoink, Scoob. They're just not making comics for kids anymore.
All right, what it's about. We Are Venom. A collection of Venom stories from across the history of the symbiote begins here, all rendered in Venom's own black and white and red. David Michelinie and Jonas Scharf take us to the jungle as Venom stalks a vicious paramilitary science outfit bent on weaponizing Brock's symbiote. In the aftermath of Maximum Carnage, J.M. DeMatteis and David Wachter pit Eddie Brock against a family matter and a dark truth in Fathers and Sons. And Ryan North and Chris Lee put the lethal in Lethal Protector as Venom helps a kid get revenge. So, well, here it is, folks. My very first review for a comic with a parental advisory label. Are you happy, Joe MP? First, let me say that the parental advisory label is justified, as the title suggests. There is no shortage of the red stuff, and it is red. And let's just say you don't want to be on the receiving end of a sonic cannon. That said, I feel that the black, white, and red combination makes the art very striking and pleasing to look at. More stylish than overtly graphic, in my opinion. Of others' taste, of course, may vary. As for the stories, I find that all three are well written and they don't overstay their welcome. Of the three, I like the third one, Fathers and Sons, the best because of the abusive father/son story it tells. Fortunately, I have not had any abusive parents, but I imagine the story will resonate for those who have. What I really like about the issue as a whole is that it shows Venom/Eddie's moral compass. In the second story, Sweet will be the flower. Cletus Cassidy tells Eddie that they're both killers, the only difference being that Cletus likes who he is. But where Venom will kill an evil doctor who harms innocents in the first story, he'll give an abusive father a second chance. And, you can bet that Cletus/Carnage would not make such a distinction. And that is a big reason why Venom is my favorite character and Carnage is among my least favorite characters. That plus the fact that I think Venom looks way cooler than Carnage does anyway. All in all, I really enjoyed this issue a lot. Now, would I have enjoyed it as much if it were any character other than Venom? Would I have even picked it up? Probably not, but who knows? But I am looking forward to the next issue.
And you gave it a 5 out of 5.
5 stars. I did.
Additional thoughts by me. I didn't read the book because I don't care about Venom. He's one of my least favorite characters. But anyway, I like the Bagley cover the best. Hate the rest of the covers. I don't care for them. Especially don't like this one by Sanford Green. We both know Sanford personally, and it just that just does not look like his best stuff at all. The pages that you sent, we're going to look at them. I like David Walker's art the best, and I noticed that the next issue is going to be by completely different creative teams than what's appeared in the first issue. So I hope the quality and your enjoyment of the series remains the same as the series progresses. This is the art by Jonas Scharf.
And as I mentioned before, on the top left, that is what happens to a man who gets has the receiving end of a sonic cannon, and it ain't pretty. But overall, I really liked. I found the art, like I said, very striking. I really did like the red.
Yeah, this art reminds me of a combination of a number of different artists that you seem to like in the past. I mean, you like Ryan Otley, and I know you were a huge Waringa fan.
Yep.
And then there was just a little. Oh geez, I can't think of the guy's name right now. It's escaping me. But it's another one of the people that I know you like. So it's like this is like a combination of all three. And I was like, so I could understand why you like this art, and why it kind of struck out to you a little bit there. This is the Chris Lee work, and I'm not feeling it at all.
I personally am not a fan of the svelte, well put together Venom. I like the more beastly, hulking Venom myself.
Well, I mean, his hand's too big for the wrist, and the proportions are just a little bit wonky here and there, but I don't know. The whole thing just really grabbed me. It's interesting though, because it kind of feels like an 80s indie comic would feel, with all the different textures of duo shade or / computer graphics that you fill-ins with.
Yeah.
The first page looks actually much better than the second page, because you can tell it's computer gradation shading, whereas the first page on the left feels more like a classic 80s black and white comic,
right?
With a one color.
And I'm a big fan of grayscale with that splash of red. I love that contrast.
Yeah, it's okay. I think it's the weakest of the three, and then this is my favorite stuff.
Three. Yep.
Yeah, that's what I like to see.
Yeah, I just but Dave's doing a lot of watercolor work and effort in this, and it's much more. It's the most dynamic and diversified of the art layouts and storytelling.
Right.
I think the other three styles. So it's like, yeah, this. I could take a whole issue of just this if I was going to, but it is what it is. But what do you think, Chris? Based on what you're seeing here,
I love it. Even the one Venom that I didn't, that style I don't really care for, I would absolutely pick this up. I love the black and white art, or the grayscale art with the red. I've always liked Venom, so yeah.
Okay.
Right on.
Good. And so, John, is this your official turn down the dark side, down the dark path? Like, are we gonna be like, John, what are you doing today? And be like, I don't know, gonna go pick up a couple back issues of Bondage Fairies and kick a puppy. I don't know, maybe
No.
Only time will tell.
Oh my God. All right, let's go on to the next one. We're going to go back to CRYPTOLOGY, number 5 for 295, TwoMorrows Publishing. Our writers and art various. Again, it's TwoMorrows Interview Historical Review magazine, came out yesterday, September 17th. If you thought you heard the rattle of bones, you were right. This time around, the cryptologists have dug up a few skeletons in the closets of my creepy little magazine. We have the Ghost Rider from comic books through his incarnation on the cinema screen. There are skulls aplenty on the covers dating back to the pulps, Martin Goodman's Atlas Digest and horror comics from the pre-code era. We unearthed Hy Fleischman's hideous skeleton covers from the 1950s, along with a few of the stories he drew. Toys from the Crypt examines Walt Disney's skeletons. Oh no, it's Walt Disney! Oh no! Vintage Pirates of the Caribbean models of the 1970s to the present. Plus, Last Gasp Skull comics and the films of William Castle. And if that's not enough, our Killer Bee department has exhumed a few Skull and Bones classics. House on Haunted Hill, The Four Skulls of Jonathan Drake, and The Skull. And don't forget our Hammer Time section. So roll the bones for a magazine, especially for you retro horror fans, by Lee Svoger, the Cronenberg's editor, Peter Normanton. What did I think? Great mag once again. TwoMorrows rarely does a poor product, folks. There's everything, like he says, from Ghost Rider to an article about the famous Disney featurette, The Skeleton Dance, to skeletal Pirates of the Caribbean toys and model kits, to talking about George Wilson's classic horror comics cover art from the 1960s, from 70s from Boris Karloff, Mysteries, Dark Shadows, Ripley's Believe It or Not, True Ghost Stories, and others, and plenty more. And I wish more people would talk about magazines like these instead of whining about the lack of coverage of super overhyped, overrated titles. 5 stars. Now, we've been talking about this book for a while, and I've been pushing it back and pushing it back. I finally got it read. Destroying Angel Lumen number 404. Bounce House Comics by Tony McMillen. Genre supernatural action adventure, released August 30th, 2025. And I apologize, Tony, for not getting this finished and read and reviewed for you sooner. The story of Esteban Vela continues in this 4-issue ongoing series. Esteban is in the realm of the Noctura, gathering energy for himself to battle dark forces. His armor and tools diminished, almost gone. Esteban finds Amy, and together she nurses them back for one last battle where he confronts Attaboy? McMillen is interconnecting his universes and building into the next series as this story concludes. Now, to be honest, partly because I was very tired and partly because I can't remember what I read in issue number 3, I was a little bit confused with the story, but I'm going to chalk that up to what my mental state was when I was reading it, rather than any weakness in the work, because Tony's just been doing a really great job with this series. Overall, the story was very enjoyable, and I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5.
I'm really digging that cover.
Oh, that was Chris's. There you go, Chris. Oh, you got to talk about that TEXARCANUM.
All right, this is TEXARCANUM number 2 of 4, $4.99. Publisher Dark Horse, writer Christopher Monfetti, artist Miguel Martos, colorist Patricio Del Peche, lettering Michael Heisler, editor Rose Weitz, genre occult and supernatural crime and mystery. Released September 3rd, 2025, with an age rating of 16 and up. What it's about. With the deaths of their sons, the feud between the Garrisons and Riley families ramps up, poisoning the Heartland along with it. As mysterious deaths plague the Riley solar farm, cowboy mage Avery Bell will soon discover how one supernatural threat can stir up another. All right. So, yeah, I thought this one was pretty good. Avery gets notified of something going on at a solar farm in Nebraska where he finds death and unusual weather. What or who is the cause of this? Original, compelling story, interesting characters, and decent art make for a good read. It gets a bit wordy at times, and the letterer could separate some of those sloggy walls of dialogue that I hate so much a little better. But all in all, not too bad.
Better than I expected it to be. Quite interesting given how Monfet takes the different myths and blends North American, Indian, Irish, and Mexican mythos into a shared narrative. I'm not really all that into the lead character, Avery Bell, though. He seems rather generic as a sort of redneck cowboy version of John Constantine, and he could stand a little bit more character and uniqueness to him, in my opinion. But I didn't read the first issue, so maybe there was a little more going on that I don't know. I'm just going by what I've read in this issue. Overall, art's okay. Nothing to write home about, but nothing to complain about either. The cover was the best image, I think, overall. But the art involving the victims' faces was really weird. We'll show you that in a minute. Overall, it's an okay issue. You give it a 3.5, and I give it a 3. And let's look at some of that artwork. And he's got some interesting stuff going on.
Yeah, he does. Absolutely.
Faces built into the trees, but like the skulls are in the underground and their blood goes into the roots and other stuff. It's like, okay. And then you talk about the different ages and eras of fighters that his bloodline has kind of been part of over the centuries of mages and warriors and whatever. Fighting supernatural beasts.
That last panel with the Oni, though, is gorgeous.
Yeah. Okay. Now, this is his home base, which is a silo. And inside the silo is like a whole bunch of stacks of all kinds of collections of macabre stuff.
Basically, this is his house of mystery. Yeah.
And it's like he's got so much crap that he doesn't even have room for a bed. He just got a hammock. Now, one thing I do not like about this, I'm going to start pulling it up. Yeah, it looks fine when you pull it up, the red on the yellow. But in the comic, it's just an eyesore for me. I have a hard time reading it. I don't know. Did you have a hard time reading it on screen?
No, I didn't have a hard time with that. No.
Okay. Yeah, I don't like red lettering on anything. It just makes it more hard to read to me. And then of course the sister of the guy who was killed calls him and says, "Hey, I need you to go."
Right as he's about ready to fall asleep, he's like, "Mother."
Yeah. And then here's what they find: people going out. The entities like blowing out their whole head there, you know. And it's like everybody has the exact same look. So he was like explaining what could be this entity that somehow blows out like that. Great.
I got to kick on that. Yeah. What did he call it? A something spider?
Yeah, Scandinavian brain spider.
Yeah, Scandinavian brain spider. They're like, wait a second, is that real? Ah.
Of course I am. You're kidding. Of course I fucking am, at least as far as I know. But okay, that's back to that one. Let me but you know, the sad part, of course, is that he finds out that there's a weather shaman that's been hired to do certain things to screw up the solar, and by doing that, it's called upon sort of I guess for lack of word, it's like
a banshee. It was a banshee.
Yeah. And so it's like it was like interesting how the different magic you're supposed to draw on different magics and call upon this. And I'm like, okay, I don't know how he's coming up with this, but you know, if it works internally within the what he set up, I guess it's fine. You know.
Basically, he defeats the banshee with sunlight, because banshees are like spirits of like doom and gloom and muck and, you know, darkness. So
yeah. All right. And lastly, John.
All right.
Cute bunny rabbits. This is going to be such a great story.
Watership Down, the graphic novel, publisher 10 Speed Press, writer James Sturm, adapted from the novel by Richard Adams. Artist is Joe Sutphin, with colors by Joe Hawks and Sutphin. Lettering is by Sutphin and Sturm. Cover artist Joe Sutphin. Editor Caitlin Ketchum. Designer Chloe Rollins. Genre fantasy. Release date October 18th, 2023. The age rating is teen. That's my rating. The original novel is considered for 10 to 12 and up, leaning toward the older. Ability of the child to handle the story's themes should be taken into consideration. Apparently, I didn't realize this. It was an Eisner Award winner, Ohio Book Award winner, Ringo Award nominee, and Harvey Award nominee. So what it's about, it's a beautiful and faithful graphic novel adaptation of Richard Adams's beloved story of a group of rabbits on an epic journey in search of home. Watership Down is a classic tale of survival, hope, courage, and friendship that has delighted and inspired readers around the world for more than 50 years. Masterfully adapted by award-winning author James Sturm and gorgeously illustrated by best-selling artist Joe Sutphin, this spectacular graphic novel will delight old fans and inspire new ones, bringing the joy of Watership Down to a new generation of readers.
Or the sadness, because this is not a happy story by any means.
Yeah. So what I thought, I have not read Richard Adams' original novel, but I have seen the 1978 animated film, which is great in its own right. And I think we mentioned earlier about Lewis helping us broaden our horizons. Lewis actually gave me this book as a present. For which I am very grateful, because this book is outstanding. Of course, the source material is a story about a group of rabbits who go on an epic journey in search of a new home. Like the description said, it's a tale of survival, hope, courage, and friendship that also touches on universal themes of community, faith, oppression, ecological issues, and coming to terms with mortality. Now, in addition to the story, the book includes a map, a Lapine dictionary for the terms and some of the names in the story, and best of all, a 2-page essay entitled Adapting Rabbits, in which Sturm discusses the process of adapting the story in a graphic novel format. Sturm and Sutphen had the benefit of spending time in England with Adams's 2 daughters and visiting and photographing the actual locations, since all of the settings in the story are real places, and that inspiration really comes through. And according to the back page of the book, the artwork was done with a combination of Micron pens, Prismacolor pencils, Holbein acrylic gouache, and Speedball Escada brushes on Strathmore Bristol board, and the results are simply gorgeous. I felt like I was right there in the fields and warrens with those rabbits. All in all, this is an excellent adaptation that makes me want to read the original novel, and in fact is something that Sturm, in the closing words of his essay, encourages the reader to do.
Yes, absolutely read the prose novel. If I'd known you'd only been familiar with the 78 film, which is a masterwork in its own right, I would have gotten you a copy of the prose book ages ago. But when I saw this book in one of our local comic shops, Heroes and Dragons, I just knew that this had to be something for your collection. Because Watership Down is one of John's favorite animation films. And he also has like the music for the film on album, if I remember.
On vinyl. I got it right here, in fact.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, they're, he's just a big Watership Down fan to begin with. So I figured he'd read the novel. But this was like, I saw this book, like, yeah, this is what John needs. I did gloss it over before I gave it to you, but that was like feels like a lifetime ago. But it was probably just your birthday last year.
So it was yeah, I think so.
Yeah. But I've been nagging you to read the damn thing ever since, so we can review it. I didn't need to thoroughly read the book, though, to identify and acknowledge the quality of the work. Just a cursory glance of the book of the story was like, now this is a graphic novel. This is what comics should be, type moment for me when I first saw the book. I wish more publishers and others would take to producing more content like this. But one of the primary reasons that it doesn't happen more often is because of the foolish nature of the so-called comics fandom and the retailers who overly emphasize the superhero genre over stories like these that can be more identifiable to a broader range of audience. Here's a story that will allow you to deal with the themes of mortality and death and violence, and the characters aren't going to be magically brought back because the next writer wants to play with the toys.
Right.
Imagine what the X-Men or Spider-Man towels would have been like if they actually kept their characters dead and we had to deal with the actual loss of our favorite characters and deal with the horrors of what the mutants go through, the way these rabbits go through in this book. So it's like, it'd be a completely different thing. Artistically, Sutphen should be one of the industry's top names, but because he's more known for illustrating children's books than he's known for comics, he is shamelessly overlooked by comics audiences because they're not familiar with his body of work. Both John and I give it a 5-star rating. It can even go a 6-star, right?
Yeah.
So let's take a look at this art.
So of course, on the left, that's just that's just a beautiful page. I mean, it's just, a nice a view of the land, with three characters, really being kind of the secondary element of that page.
Mm-hmm.
And then the page on the right. So for those who don't know, the rabbit with the big eyes, his name is Fiver, and he has what you might call second sight, where he has visions of things before they happen. And of course, now he's seeing the entire field covered in blood, which is a bad sign of things to come.
Right. And just how the eyes, how he does the face is just something else.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just it's a combination of second sight and his abilities manifesting, but it's also right. You can tell he's horrified by what he sees.
Yeah.
And so, it's just great facial expression work.
Mm-hmm. And so here on the left is this throughout the story, the rabbit Dandelion, who is the group's resident storyteller, tells stories of Lord Frith, who is represented by the sun here, and El Ararara, kind of their ancestors, and it's so it's a little bit different stylistically than the rest of the story.
Mm-hmm. And then of course you've got a raven or a crow attacking, and they're all trying to.
Of course.
Attack. Yes, of course. I don't like rabbits. Are you kidding me? Yeah. Kill the rabbits! Kill the rabbits! Anyway, and then they go into this scene where their burrow is being torn apart by construction.
Mm-hmm. Which is what Fiver's vision was about.
Right.
And then on the right, we have the Black Rabbit of Inlay, who is the representation of death and mortality.
And then we have a couple of beavers down there who just don't seem to give a damn.
Oh, they care.
Oh.
Yeah, they just lost their give a damn, like you say. But anyway. Then there's another part where they try to get accepted into a different clan of rabbits, and it doesn't go well.
It's very oppressive.
So just really good stuff as a whole. And that's our review for tonight. Next week, we are going to review Web of Horror, the complete Web of Horror series. We're going to get your Batman fix, Joe. It's Batman second night or something like that. Let me, second night. We were trying to get the last day of H.P. Lovecraft this week, but it didn't arrive at my store. I don't know why, but hopefully it'll be in next week. We were going to do Cowboys and New Mesa, but John didn't get his copy, and he wants to save it. We might do it next week. We might still delay it because what was it you wanted to do? You wanted to do Cowboys?
I want to do Turtles, and then a couple of because actually I have Cowboys and New Mesa. It was Street Sharks that didn't come in this week,
okay.
But I wanted to do like Ninja Turtles, and then a couple of series that were considered Ninja Turtles knockoffs.
Okay.
So kind of a theme.
Okay.
So we'll see how that goes.
Okay, and then also we got you caught up on Biker Mice from Mars too, I think.
Yep.
So there's those. So we'll be looking at, that's what John's gonna be looking at doing next week. Chris, you've got the Pale Knight #4 and #5.
Yes.
And of course, you're gonna do The Last Day of Lovecraft as well.
Yes, I am.
I don't know if you're interested in Orphan and the Five Beasts or not. You might not. But I'm going to do Escape #2, Orphan and Five Beasts, Bath of Blood #1, Robo-Wolf #3, and we're going to finally get to that Wrath Vermilion as well. And possibly more. So that's what we're doing. But before we go, got one more surprise. Got an unboxing for you.
Ooh.
Got this in the mail. It's from Afterlight Comics, a horror comics publisher. Thank you for your purchase. It's in a black bag. It must be a body bag of something. Let's see if I can get this thing to open. And this comes out of London, England, by the way. So it's one of those international books that I'm always buying. It does not want to open. The glue on this bag is stickers.
Oh, that's good quality packing.
Yeah. But I don't want to damage the book if I'm trying to open it either. There we go. All right. Put that down there so the other doesn't do that. What is this? Because I've got no idea. I buy so much stuff I don't remember. Pest control is what it is. So maybe I'll add this to our talk next week.
Ooh, that looks good.
Yeah. There's the back cover.
Very cool.
And I don't like that my camera doesn't want to sharpen up the lettering on that so you guys can read it. But
looks like somebody ate their magnolia for breakfast before they did that comic.
Mm-hmm. Tino and Wang aren't your average monster hunters. They're brawlers, hustlers, and unlikely heroes who've seen it all. From the shadowed forests where werewolves roam, or werewolves prowl, I should say, to graveyards crawling from the undead, to crypts ruled by bloodthirsty vampires, they fought their way through every nightmare you've heard whispered about a campfire. Just when you think it can't get any more dangerous, a multi-headed Hydra shows up and ready to tear them apart. So that's what this is going to be about. So it'll be interesting to see what it is. The monsters, hunters, and stuff. So there you go. That'll be probably another book that I'll review next week.
When you said where the werewolves roam, first thing I thought of was, oh, take me home to where the werewolves roam, where the hags and the vampires play.
Okay. One of these days, we're going to have to get him his own karaoke channel where he just makes up the lyrics as he goes. or maybe we should just put him on America's Got Talent and have Simon buzz him.
Right? That was the worst thing I've ever heard in my life.
So anyway, you can find me on Facebook at Lewis.BrightRaven, at Twitter at LewisBrightRaven. Which is another thing he was complaining about, that chat GBT you're doing. He uses Lewis BrightRaven too as his chat. Yeah, because that's what the heck the stupid program let me use. Whatever, DeviantArt.com/BrightRaven. You can't find my work and see my published works there. you've been watching Quoth Raven, Lewis Bright Raven exclusively at YouTube, and you want to reach out to me on social media, except for you, Joey MP, you're done. Yeah, I don't really think any of us care to hear from you anymore. But rest of you, Lewis Bright Raven at Quoth Raven LBR72@gmail.com. If I don't get back to you there, try Lewis Bright Raven at yahoo.com. And there is not going to be a Friday show this week because there's just too much going on. I don't know if I'm going to have time to watch the movie that we were planning, so we're just going to delay it a week. And besides, Chris needs a break too, I think, right?
I got a lot of work to do, so yeah.
Yeah. So Saturday,
and I'll be doing the second weekend of our show.
Yeah. He means his show for his theater work. So, yeah, John, what are you doing this weekend?
So we are in weekend number 2 of Disney's Freaky Friday, the musical, a stage community theater show for which I am the musical director. So we'll be doing it this weekend and next weekend at Village Square Theater in Lexington, South Carolina. So if you're in the area, come on out.
Very, very cool.
Show's head just exploded. It's a Disney film. He's even doing a Disney theater. And what are you doing Saturday, Chris?
Well, we will be having our podcast at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Glass House Graphics YouTube channel. Glass House presents Throwing Stones, and we will have Glass House Europe, I guess. Richard Boom, one of the nicest guys in comics and self-proclaimed mummy lover. And I will be playing D&D. I'm Dynamite. It's D&D.
Okay.
We'll beat the fight.
If this was a class, you would not pass. Anyway. That is, again, Glass House Throwing Stones on YouTube. And if you want to get hold of Chris, it's ghthrowingstones@gmail.com. You want to be nice to John. Don't pick on him because he likes Disney. Email the Great Figaro at hotmail.com.
He's reading Watership Down. He's reading Venom, like mature readers. Like I said, man. Yeah.
So that's all we got for you this week. We'll see you guys on Monday with Monday Manga. And until then, have a great weekend, folks. See you next time. Quoth the Raven, nevermore.